let's see if I can do this so that it's that it works. Okay, so I did this little mind mapping exercise. I'm going to show it to you. It takes like 30 seconds or something, but one of the things that is coming up right now is the holidays. And I don't know about you, but I kind of dream about a Norman Rockwell kind of Christmas. I don't know why. I've always wanted everybody to get along. I always want the food to be perfect. I want snowfall on the day. I want the Christmas trees to be beautiful and, you know, like the light hits things gorgeously. I want everybody to wake up and be happy and not grumpy. That's always the worst part, is people grumpy, people fighting. Nobody can decide what time somebody's supposed to go somewhere, right? There's all of this chaos and I don't like it. And so I would often use a mind map to think about, how do I have like the perfect Christmas holiday for me? And so while there's a lot of things that you can think about with regard to the holidays, I really started to think about, what can I do for myself? You know, I only have so much control over other people. I actually have no control over other people unless I'm forcing myself on them, right? So I did this one based more on, how can I take care of myself during the holiday? So this is kind of a time-lapsed version. So in the center, I said, best holiday ever. So thinking about gut health, right? Thinking about mind over platter, right? Golly gee, I love sugar during the holiday season. And I know people that have really great willpower. Well, do not put all those cookies on my counter, because they will be gone. Because then I'll go, well, I may as well just finish them. Right? Everybody, you know, get a move on. So how do I make sure I'm staying active? So there's, you know, making sure my tummy's good, making sure that, you know, I'm eating properly, making sure I'm on the move. Another thing that's important, and I'm not always consistent about this. Linda is much more consistent about this, but counting your lucky stars, being grateful for the things that are good in your life, whether it's just that you had hot water that day, whether, you know, your makeup went on without any big smears, whether, you know, all of the technology worked. Everybody's got their thing, right? So what can you be grateful for? I started to think about, if every day I could think of some things that I could be grateful for, that will help put my mind in the right spot for the holidays. Another one for me is no credit card panic. So one of the things that happens quite often is, I'll use my card now, but in January, it'll be like, oh my God, what was I thinking, right? Or I knew I had it covered, and then a contract didn't come through the way I thought, and now I've got this bigger bill than I expected. So what can I do to make sure that there's no credit card panic? Where can I add, you know, pay more in cash, or do different kinds of gifts? And we'll talk about those in just a few minutes. Another one is pitch the perfectionism. Right? Think about all the places where you want it perfect. I mean, Norman Rockwell things are it's all about the perfect. Got to have all the pillows just right, and I have to have the right smell. And, you know, did I vacuum enough times to get the dog hair up? And, you know, whatever those things are, I got to have the beds made before everybody gets here. And I got to have everything right in the pantry. And is my daughter going to be here on time? And do I need to wake up and, you know, to be awake when she arrives? And it's got to be just perfect. You want to start to think about, where are all those places that perfectionism, you know, where you just, and it's things that you only do probably during the holidays. You probably don't do it in July, right? And then start to think about going with the flow. There are going to be other people involved. And where do we get attached to different kinds of things that, if somebody says, hey, why don't we go to the zoo and see the lights? And you're like, oh, it's cold and it's going to cost money. Instead of saying yes, like, where can you be a yes in the holidays? Not be the Scroogey naysayer. You know, where can you be a yes is about going with the flow. So I wanted you to start to think about some of these things. Now, I have another version of this that I want you to think about, because we're going to work on this in just a minute if you're not already writing down ideas at this moment. So, okay. So another way to look at it, this is just a standing one, is you could say, I want to stress-free. For me, it's Christmas Day. For you, it could be New Year's Eve. It could be, you know, my sister has a birthday in the middle of the season, and it could be that we want it to be stressless for her. So there's things you might have to think about. Got to do all the grocery shopping. I've got to be planning for the various meals. Who's coming at what time and who's leaving on what different days, and how do I make sure I'm organized for all of those things? How do I stay in my budget? Not just my Christmas budget, but I don't know about you guys, but this is the kind of time of year when I'll go buy that extra special bottle of wine. I'll put chocolates out that I never eat except during this time of the year. You know, I'm spending money on, you know, let's do, I need those 12 Christmas ornaments. I had never seen them before and I have to have them, right? So where is it that you go out of your budget? Planning events, right? If you've got a lot of people coming in and out, when and where do you want to go places? And making sure that you're communicating. I visited my daughter last weekend for Thanksgiving and I said, I don't care what we do. The only thing I want to do is she lives, she's just a couple of miles from the Mississippi. And whether it's raining or snowing or cold or sunny or hot, it is a beautiful walk. And I said, the only thing I want to do in the 4 days I'm here is to walk with you by the river. Didn't happen. I finally took the walk on my own because I knew I could stay mad about it, but I knew that me walking on the river was important. So I took a walk on the river just before I left town. So you want to make sure that you communicate what you want and get agreement, or have them say no, just so you know how to plan for the things that are important to you. Scheduling a wrapping day. How many of you like wrap at the very last minute? I do that and it makes me crazy, and I should be better at it. So anyway, these are just all some ideas of things you could think about with regard to mind mapping. So before we actually do a more formalized exercise, what are you guys seeing about this? What are you noticing in this conversation about mind mapping?
Not a list.
What do you mean not a list? Say a little bit more, Linda.
Well, I'm looking at the pictures. It's not a list. You don't itemize things.
Right.
And then if you write it on a piece of paper, you forgot something, but the next thing's right underneath of it. Now you got to squeeze it in, and it makes it really disorganized and ugly if you start writing in between the lines. It drives me nuts. I have to copy everything on a new piece of paper and start over.
That's when you're in list mode, right?
Oh, I'm always in list mode. That's
Well, so the thing about the mind map is it can get you to list mode eventually. What's really cool is that if you, so I don't have it up on the screen right now, but let's say you saw there was something about grocery shopping and meal planning, and you could start to see a relationship between the two, or it's like there may be a list. You could start a grocery list, and then you could draw a picture that says, talk to mom about buying this thing. And you can start to doodle all of that onto the mind map. And you can keep working those mind maps down to become lists. But then that way you haven't forgotten anything, because it lets the ideas keep flowing before you have to put it into a bulleted list. Anybody else see anything? Okay. Carol, were you getting ready to say something?
Yeah, before I realized I wasn't muted. It takes you out of your left logical side, which is your judge and critic also. So you're doing these circles, you're doing this, you're really bypassing the critic that says, well, no, you can't do that, or that wouldn't work, or you're just really moving along rather than stuttering along.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you guys see with regard to the holidays that could get in your way? Clearly I had listed some things that I know will get in my way, overeating, not working out, overspending, things of that nature. Do you guys are those similar things for you at the holidays, or do you have other things? Because if you have other things, it could spark an idea for somebody. So does anybody else have other things that they might have put on their list for the holidays to make it be stress-free?
Responses to my family's statements. How do I respond to that? If I think about it ahead of time, then maybe if it comes up, I can be more intentional, or, not allow it to create an issue.
Seems like there are always some conversations that will show up that will trigger us, right?
Always.
Yeah.
And my kids too. I mean, I think being aware of, I have kids that are going to get married in September, and I'm sure they are sick and tired of hearing, when are you going to start a family? So, like, right? Don't ask that. That's off the discussion list.
I know sometimes we have people in our families that smoke, and it's like, how do we deal with that when we don't want the smoke near the house or in the house? Or, someone complains about it being too cold all the time, or somebody might be complaining about your job. Or I know when we first started Shimula, people were like, Dawn, why are you doing this? This is stupid. This is crazy. Why are you leaving a good corporate job? You've only got a few more years to retirement. What do you, I have to, it's the time to be prepared, to be thinking about that. Just like you said, Linda, there will be some triggering conversations, and you can either go with the flow and just laugh and let it go, right? Because sometimes there's just nothing to say. And sometimes you may want to make a few points, but try to determine what's important in the holiday, because sometimes we just can't satisfy those people, right? Or your uncle, somebody or other who drinks too much. So you have to be prepared for whatever that is, whether they're happy and jolly, or they get mean and ugly. And, what does that look like? So.
One of the things this reminds me of is a workshop we did last year where we kind of were talking about the 5 love languages and like how to buy gifts based on that for people. But like, especially for people on a budget and stuff like that, if you want to make sure that on January 19th and your statements come in, which is, by the way, the most depressing day of the year because of the sun cycle and credit card statements coming in after the holidays. So a little preparation in advance helps a lot. If you can like take all the people you love and you put in the middle, no credit card debt, and you just put the arms out there, all the people you love, and then just write down everything they love. Are they a person who loves physical touch? Are they a person who loves words of affirmation, quality time, all this other stuff? I know we have a slide on this, but I think it's really important to understand some of this. And then you can really dig into that, especially if you're on a tight budget this year, or everything you want is on those container ships out in the bay. Because typically, they make it seem like Black Friday is the best deal, but normally the best deals are the procrastinators that buy the stuff last minute. You just don't have a variety to choose from. But this year, who knows what's going to happen, right? There's a lot of hacks to make sure that you stay inside of budget or all this other stuff. But my favorite way to do it is talk about the 5 languages of love, and then figure out how you can either create an experience together. I'm against bringing in any clutter in my house in the next 3 months. We're trying to get it all out. So my husband and I have talked, and we said, we want an experience, or we want to give back to the community together, right? So you can talk to family and friends. You've got low cost expenses, giving the gift of service. So you can see here, there's other ways to do it. It doesn't always have to be a physical gift, right? Like my son loves interactive time with me. And when he doesn't get it, he creates a situation where it happens. So, you know, I think it's time to practice. What do you think, Dawn?
Yeah, one of the things I thought would be important, I know that with the other things that we showed you with regard to grocery shopping or, how do you manage calendars or dealing with some of the triggering conversations, those are all hard, but there are people in your life where that's kind of there's somebody in your life you could probably talk to about those things. But the one thing that's harder to talk about really is the financial piece around the holidays, especially if you have just launched a business or you're thinking about launching a business or you're trying to go back to school or you want to change jobs or you're thinking about retiring. Is the financial conversation for Christmas. For some reason, and especially here in the United States, there's a conversation about giving a lot, right? We may not see people very often, but now we're going to give them a bunch of gifts to prove our love, right? And to prove that they're important. And I'll be honest, I remember one gift I got from Christmas last year, right? And, if you think about it, do you remember what you got, and do the people you bought for or spent money on for experiences, do they remember it? Do they still talk about it?
Mhm.
So we really wanted to have this conversation. We'd really like you to think about doing a mind map around your financial health over the next 30 days. If these are some ideas that we had, we highly encourage you to have a budget. Or some level of budget, right? So that you're actually aware of how much that you're spending. And you want to be able to talk to your family and friends and say, here's where I am financially. I'm going to spend like I always have, but you don't have to. Or you can spend however you want, but I'm not going to. But don't have a guilt conversation going underneath when the gifts are being given out, because that always makes it harder, right? All that comparison that people do with each other, right? Oh, my sister Amy, she gave more than I did. We just had my sister said she would buy my daughter's Doc Martens. They're like $150. And I said, well, I really wanted to give her the Doc Martens. And but Amy was like, but that's what I want to give her. And it was because we both wanted to feel important. It really wasn't, it was the most expensive thing on her list. So then there's this whole like, am I more important or is her aunt more important, mom or aunt? Then you know what I mean? Then all of a sudden it gets crazy in the way we deal with these things. So I'd like you to take a moment and think about how could you have a different holiday season from a financial point of view? These are some examples, but you might put some other things up. And then we'd like to hear back from you. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. And when you've got a good idea, we'll give you, 5 or 6 minutes. If you're done, raise your hand or look up or something like that. That would be good so we would know. I wish we had some Christmas music to play.
Ask Alexa. Alexa, play some Christmas music.
Holiday favorites on Amateur Music.